All right, so welcome everybody to another episode of the Lest You Forget podcast, a historical podcast by Tenement Yarn Media. I'm your host of this episode, Davey. And on this episode, we are going to talk about a legal issue. You understand? A legal case that played out in Jamaica, involving the Jamaican state, specifically the Jamaican police, and Sade Adu, one of music's most recognizable voices and the face of one of the most best-selling, that doesn't sound correct, one of music's best-selling and most influential bands of all time. Like, it's Sade Adu, so we're gonna talk about that. Just a bit of disclaimer. I wrote this, I think I finished writing what would become this episode back in 2022, early 2023 thereabout. And I learned about the event from Jamila Lichmore, who is the editor of the Lifestyle and Entertainment Desk at Gleaner. And she just asked me she asked me way back in like 2021, she asked me if I could find out what exactly happened, because she just wanted to know, and there was nothing that she could find personally and stuff like that, if I could, so I said, cool. And because me moved by my own time a while, 2 years. But for what it's worth, there was not a lot of things out there to actually find out what happened. Sade is notoriously private, one of music's most private personalities. So it's not like she had to interview and talk about the entire situation. So, it did required, and you're going to see, on the website page, you don't have a lot of literature that we could recommend for it, because a lot of the things that I had to use to write this thing, and was a lot of archival documents, from the judicial institutions in Jamaica, a lot of reporting from the courts, and and newspaper clippings that was covering the case. Like, that's majority of it. That's why it takes so long. The 2 years. So I did, when I finally formulate everything, and I sent Jamila, she asked for an article, and I end up just drafting something. I think I drafted something like maybe 800, 900 words. Because when made contact with your former lawyer at the time, he verified that the case was still open. The entire situation is still open. Like, there's still a warrant out for her arrest in Jamaica. You see me? So me, I say, So I just end up writing it. Because me, I say, brother, me not feel brother, the warrant older than me. No, the entire legal situation older than me. Me don't feel like they are coming to this. I end up writing the article and just, go so room. Give Gleaner cool, never really come out of it and stuff. But then last year October there, but one look at situation I'm with Movado. I say, wait a little minute. If the Jamaican state can do this to Movado, you see me, I say, me not see why them can't do it for Sade. Me not see why Sade situation can't get handled the same way. You understand? If, as your lawyer said, the warrant is still open. So, her former lawyer, that is. So, we're going to go into the legal issue. You understand? And talk about the case. And, this, again, I had to go back, find the original article that I wrote for Gleaner, update it based on recent events. And especially given that, a few days ago, because this is not supposed to be the episode, right? Another episode supposed to come out this week, I'm telling you, another episode supposed to come out this week. But Sade, the band, they're going to be inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame later down this year. So me, I say, all right then, cool. Jamaica, we can't get rid of a legal case. You understand? And to my fellow Jamaicans who drive privately on Jamaican roads, when you hear the story, I just want you to sift with this and be like, I wonder who is guilty in this situation. Based on what we know, based on our experiences on Jamaica roads, based on the stories, even if you're not from Jamaica road, based on the stories that you know, I just want you to think about, who do you believe is wrong in this situation? Okay? So we're gonna talk about that. So this is close to 5 minutes intro. So yeah, let us begin. All right, so before I begin, I would just want to give a brief overview of Sade Adu. You understand? But I come in the comment section on with socials and Atwe, or in the Spotify comments and be like, yo, when you have to explain who Sade is, me know who Sade is. Let me say, you will be very surprised. You will be very surprised how many people do not know who Sade is and don't even know that Sade Adu is different from Sade the band. You will be very surprised. Or even their influence on music. You'll be very surprised. So please, before I say nothing, just calm down. You understand? I'm gonna explain who Sade Adu is. Okay. I take this very serious, okay? Every year Sade is in my top 5 most listened musicians on streaming. So, but take this seriously. I need people to understand I'm taking this very seriously as to why I have to explain this, okay? So let me explain this. Cool? All right. So, we're going to begin first with who Sade Adu is. So, Helen follow Sade Adu. If you're Nigerian, please sit with me. So Helen Folashade Adu was born in 1959 in Ibadan, Nigeria. However, soon after Sade's parents divorced. In the wake of this, Sade's father remained in his home country as a lecturer of economics, while her mother took Sade and the older brother Banji to the UK. And it was there in the small town named Holland-on-Sea that Sade grew up. And it wasn't easy. Her mother, who was a white woman, struggled to raise her 2 black children in rural 1960s England, right? And despite this, though, Sade would find solace in the creative arts. I'm not going to act like as if I know what growing up biracial in, a predominantly white space. So, like, that's not my, life. But creative arts was an outlet, for all the things that she would have been facing as a biracial child growing up in England during this period. Now, as she told Spin magazine in a 1985 interview,
of course I've struggled in every way. I've never had anything come easily to me other than the creative side.
And it was her love for the arts that guided Sade after completing secondary school. She decided on fashion and went on to study fashion design at St. Martin's School of Art. While there, she also worked as a part-time model. Still, one night when Sade went to see the Lovers rap band, Misty in the Roots, see me Jamaican connection. You understand? Jamaican connection, yes. She ran into 2 guys from her childhood. And it was this chance meeting that changed the trajectory of her life. As she recalled in a 1992 interview with Michael A. Gonzalez,
it was 2 guys from my village that I ran into when I went to see Misty in the Roots, a lovers rock band that was big in England. These guys had a band, but their singer had left. They asked if I wanted to be the singer, but I told them, I'm not a singer, I'm just a girl who likes to party. I told them I would try. Eventually, somebody was supposed to replace me, but that never happened. I learned more during that time than at any other time in my life. They were sweet blokes because if it wasn't for the blind faith in me, I wouldn't be singing.
Now, soon after finishing her fashion course, Sade worked as a menswear designer before another musical opportunity presented itself. This time, it was singing backup vocals for the brand Pride, as she told Rolling Stone in a 1985 interview.
When singing came up, I didn't think about making a career of it. I don't do crocheting and I don't play badminton, so I thought this could be a good hobby.
Now, ironically, Sade was rejected at first, but when the band was unable to find anyone else, she was asked to join. While in Pride, Sade would meet the saxophonist guitarist Stuart Matuman. One night in 1983, Sade, backed by Matuman and a rhythm section, performed a rendition of Cry Me a River. The performance blew the crowd away, and it was on that night that the roots of the band that would become Sade was planted, right? Now, by October 1983, the band was signed to Epic and now consisted of Sade and vocals, Matthew and sax and guitar, Paul Denman and bass, Andrew Hale and keys, and the drummer, Paul Cook. So, hopefully that gives some kind of, a brief overview of Sade, the person, and Sade, the band. Okay? All right. Now, let me talk about why they're a big deal. Why Sade Adu as a singular entity, in her own right, is a big deal, right? So a few months later, after they got signed to Epic, in February, the group's first single, Your Love Is King, was released, which was followed up, When Am I Going to Make a Living? A year later, in 1984, the group released their debut album, Diamond Life, which spawned the hits Smooth Operator. But it was their follow-up Promise in 1985 that thrusted the band to even more success with hits such as Is It a Crime and The Sweetest Taboo. Their sound would be loved by critics for the anti-electronic sound that dominated the mid-1980s. As Stephen Holden would review for the New York Times in a 1985 article, The Pop Life, Sade's 2D album, A Refined Fusion.
Like its forerunner, Promise ignores the prevailing pop trend toward bright electronic surfaces in favor of a refined, acoustically based fusion of pop, jazz, funk, and Latin influences.
Now, for their efforts on both Diamond Life and Promise, the band went on to win the Best New Artist at the 1986 staging of the Grammys. The sound laid on both albums would become the signature music style of the band for years and make them one of the most influential musical acts of all time. So it was just like the band sound in itself was very much stripped down, and it was more like a blend of, blues, but mixed with contemporary jazz with some echo of Quiet Storm, like that was, huh? Oh God. All right. I have to explain what Quiet Storm is, just so people don't be confused. Do I have to do it? All right. So how would I explain Quiet Storm? All right. So off the top of my head, Quiet Storm is a style, is a school. I will school. It's a school of music that emerged out of the Black American community in the mid to late 1970s. If I'm wrong, see with me. I'm saying this all of this off the top of my head. If I'm wrong, it got its name off an album that was done in the early 1970s by the brother with the green eyes. Motown. He did like probably one of the greatest persons to come out of Motown. Brother with the green eyes, you know me I talk. D'Angelo did a cover of one of his songs. It a come. You know me attack. You know who me attack. Green eyes. Smokey, Jesus Christ. Smokey, yes. Yeah. Smokey, like it was on the tip of my tongue, yeah. So it came up, it got its name from an album that he did in the early 1970s. And, it was very much more, a celebration of sensuality and intimacy, and it really took off, by the late 1970s, largely thanks to WHUR, which was the resident radio station at Howard University. For persons who don't know what I'm talking about, Howard University is a HBCU, Historically Black College and University in Washington, D.C. And Washington, D.C., at the time was largely known as a chocolate city. Not so much now. If you ever had the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. and walk down, especially Georgia Ave, you will see gentrification on steroids, to be honest with you. Like one side of the road, especially where, go-go music is very prominent, It's just like very black, steep in black tradition, and not even only black American tradition, but there's a whole lot of black influences across the diaspora on that road. And then on the other side, you see like white spaces popping up. Like it's one of the most contradicting roads, I've ever seen. I don't know if it's still like that. I haven't been in DC for a while, but yeah, so Howard University being there, and Washington DC, and having this rich, rich history. It came as no surprise that such a school of music that's very synonymous with black music, Quiet Storm, came out of it. And just a bit of queer history here. The guy who held the radio program, the radio program was called Quiet Storm. I think it ran from 11, started running from like 10 p.m., 11 p.m. He was a gay man. If he wasn't gay, he was queer. But I'm gonna go with he's gay. I can't recall his name right now. But he was the one who hosted it and was playing the music. And yeah, Quiet Storm was just really a celebration of intimacy and sensuality, and it was just very stripped down, and it was just, yeah, it was just really, fascinating, your music. And you think persons who come out of that school of music would be like Teddy Pendergrass, is in that school of music. Luther Vandross is in that school of music. But like the person who was really synonymous with it really is Anita Baker. Especially Rapture, that album. And when, Quiet Storm, the radio station at WHO at Howard University, became this very, became very popular, especially among, the black middle class, and that was emerging, across the US during this time. Different variations started to pop up across the world. So Sade is largely usually fitted in that style. That's why I say it's like a fusion of like jazz, contemporary jazz, blues, and Quiet Storm. Like all of these mixture of school of music and style of music and way of presenting. I feel like I'm just go way off. But, consider it a little bit of music history, I might get a few details wrong. But I should have written this. Either way. Let's go back to the episode, shall we? No, by 1988, the group released their third LP, Stronger Than Pride, which spawned the hit Love Is Stronger Than Pride. However, at this time, the band's leading woman, Sade, would become known for more than her vocals. Throughout the mid to late 1980s, Sade emerged as a fashion icon, a clear contrast to the glittery, sparkly, and big hair fashion of the decade. As I said, very big personalities, very big albums, very, very just glamorous that emerged during that time. Sade, who again is a fashion graduate, was known for her liberal, neutral colored fashion, gold hoop earrings, and slick back ponytail hairdo. That's what Sade would become, very, synonymous with her style. And as she stated in a 1980s interview with the magazine Face,
I don't like things that are glittery or flashy. Simplicity is the key. Looking subtle without looking dull.
And she expounded on this in her 1984 appearance on Video Soul.
Sade just likes simple clothes, really. I don't like. In fact, I think if you're a sex symbol, you have to like glittery gowns and sequins, and I don't like that. So in a way, I'm a bit of a misfit, I suppose.
No, after their 1988 album Stronger Than Pride, the group went on a hiatus. But let them just disappear. Like Sade herself just largely disappear. And that was when you start to see the formation of what would become Sade, what one of the things that Sade as the individual and the band itself would become largely synonymous with their long periodical hiatus, right? So, and this, according to Sade, was something that she prioritized, just, taking a break from time to time. And it was not until 1992 that the band would release their next project, Love Deluxe, which came 4 years after their last LP. Now, this album, Love Deluxe, would spawn the hits Kiss of Life, Cherish the Day, and No Ordinary Love. Now, the latter song won the Grammy for Best R&B Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocals. Now, after the completion of their tour in the wake of the album, the group went on a hiatus. This time, its instrumentalist members would play on Maxwell's 1996 album, Maxwell's Urban Hang Suite. And, and if you know that album, you can draw a line between Sade, the band, their work, and some of the songs and Maxwell Urban Hang Suite. Like the same school of music that I was a reference to prior of jazz, blues, the shadow of Quiet Storm. You can hear it on Maxwell Urban Hang Suite. Off the top of my head, I will say you can go and listen to Till the Cops Come Knocking. What else on that album? Whenever, wherever, whatever as well. Ascension would be a part. Yeah, you can draw a parallel to Ascension to a couple Sade songs. Like you feel the echo is there, right? And so they also, the instrumentalist members worked, with Maxwell on what is largely many persons consider his magnum opus. Yeah, let's move. I don't want and spur this into a whole debate about Maxwell's work. That's not the episode. And then in the same year, the band, the instrumentalist members of the band, Matuman, Denman, and Hale, they would form a band called Sweetback and release a self-titled album. I like the album. It's a really cool album. The same echoes of Sade. If you love Sade music, you're going to love Sweetback. I think my favorite song off that album is the collab with Maxwell, actually. What's his name? Softly, I think it's either softly or softly. But I think it's just too softly. That's what my brain is telling me. So yeah, they were doing other stuff, And as for Sade, as I said, she took a step back from just public life, right? And she also gave birth to her child in 1996 and moved temporarily to Jamaica, largely because she was in a relationship with, the local reggae producer, Bob Morgan. And with all of that being said, yeah, this is where everything kind of went left. While she was on the island, you understand it? This is where the story really begins. Now, on March 11, 1997, the Jamaica Gleaner ran the following in a story titled International Singers Expletives Strike Sour Note.
The police say the accused was traveling in the vicinity of Barnett Street and Howard Cook Boulevard, Montego Bay last month when she was signaled to stop by a police officer. Reports to the courts say she ignored the order and was chased by another police officer. The policeman caught up with her along Gloucester Avenue Hotel Strip, and the singer was taken to the Summit Police Station, where she reportedly let loose several expletives. Sade was arrested and charged with dangerous driving, disobeying a police signal, and disorderly conduct. She was given station bail in her own shorty.
Now, when Sade showed up in court, she was represented by the attorney at law, Victor Robinson, and reports stated that she was accompanied to court by two men of Rastafari faith and a woman. I'm going to be super honest, I couldn't confirm the man in Rasta, not. Them probably just have blacks. But this is Jamaica journalism in the late 1990s. Like, see, again, there was not a lot of documentation on the event. I just had to go off court proceedings and what was being reported. So, I can't confirm the man in Rasta or not. You see me trying to say? But she, again, as I said prior, she was in a relationship with Bob Morgan. So, strong likely case there. Who knows? Now, Sade ended up pleading not guilty to charges of traffic violation and disorderly conduct and was tasked to return to court on June 25. However, this is what Sade related to Times Magazine in a 2000 article titled Sade, Art and Soul.
It wasn't really a traffic incident. To be honest, It got blown into some incredible farcical event.
Now, according to the singer, it was the Jamaican policeman who tried to pressure her into giving him a bribe. Now, my fellow Jamaicans, remember up top at the beginning of the episode, I say, when the ear or everything unfold, you just have to determine based upon anecdotal evidence, based upon testimonials, or you understand? Based on the superior reputation of Jamaica traffic police. Who do you believe is in the wrong here? Who are you believing in this case here? Who are we siding with? Let's be honest. Let us move on. But just sit with that question. All right? Still, the case got complicated after Sade's first time in court. The June hearing never happened because Sade was absent. The reason given for her absence was that her child was bitten by a dog and could not travel because of that. Then the case was delayed for the third time and then again for the fourth time. By this time, due to Sade's repeated absence, a warrant was issued for her arrest and the court case was now pushed back to October. So here comes October 14, and this time, Sade showed up in court. She was there and she was ready. Now, at this point, Sade was no longer living on the island. So she was coming all the way from England just for the court case. You see? And according to an October 17, 1997 Gleaner article, this was how Sade showed up.
At about 10:10 a.m., Sade, dressed in simple but classy black trousers and a top with a floral vest, showed up with her three-member entourage, including Dreadlocks Finale in tow. A self-appointed bodyguard took immediate steps to bar members of the press from taking photographs of the Nigerian-born singer.
And so the legal stage was set. Sade was finally in court, this time with a new lawyer, Clive Mullings. Yes, that Clive Mullings. Whichever Clive Mullings you know as a lawyer, that is the Clive Mullings, right? And thus, the hearing was ready to get underway. Sade did it, a lawyer did it, you understand? The court audience did it, the judge did it, the people that were type on the typewriter who for job name I can't pronounce, them did it. Everybody was there. Except the investigating police officer. He never showed up. Now, according to court documents, the court was told that the officer, Special Constable Palmer, was on vacation leave. My good sir was resting, right? Now, when all of this, was aired in court about the delay, this is what Mullings told the court.
The tendency or the norm is that members of the public do not turn up at court even for serious offenses. But my client has shown the highest regard for the courts, having travelled all the way from England for this matter.
But when Mullings requested that the charges against his client be dismissed, the appeal was rejected by a panel of Justice of the Peace. As such, a new trial date was set, and to this, Sade requested a convenient date for she had a recording contract that she would like to honor. Thus, the date selected was February 3rd, 1998. And so, February 3rd, 1998 came. And this time, everybody was there. Except Sade. Sade did not show up. So the trial was pushed to April. And when April come around again, Sade didn't show up. And to this, Mullings, who was still her lawyer at this time, stated that she had contractual obligations abroad and thus could not visit Jamaica. And when Mullings pushed for a new date, the court granted him the appeal, and May 6 was set for the new court date. But when that day came, Sade still did not show up. Right? And Mr. Mullings would give the same reason of contractual obligation for Sade's absence, and the judge, this time resident magistrate Glenn Brown, agreed to a new date of June 17. Now, before I move on, right, I should say that while I was writing this, I did came across this other story involving Sade, another legal situation that entered the public space, right? that I have to mention. So by this time in 98, right, Sade's first legal representation on this case, Victor Robinson, the brother woman just talked about prior, he stated that he was suing Sade and her romantic partner, Bobby Morgan, for $100,000 in legal fees for which he said he was owed. Now, I tried my utmost best to find out more information about this because it was literally like 2 lines in our footnote for a thing. You see what I'm trying to say? But, you know, I can't give any update. Lest we forget podcasts. We can't give any update on that if that suit was ever filed, as I could not find any evidence that a summons was served specifically to this situation, right? So I just wanted to make mention of that I did find information about that in the public. Still, when June 17 came around, yet again, Sade did not show up and a warrant was issued for her arrest. But as she told Time magazine in the aforementioned interview 2 years later, she plans to never visit Jamaica in order to avoid being arrested. As such, by all instances and purposes, and I am going off everything that we know because Sade is uber private, right? Based on everything that we know, Sade has not been on the island since October 1997. And it is here that I should say that recent checks with Clive Mullins confirm that yes, indeed, Jamaica still has a warrant out for Sade Adu's arrest. According to the man who used to represent her, you understand? I mean, it's very clear. I know we have said this. According to the man who used to represent her, according to Clive Mullins, you understand? A lawyer who many of us have seen on TV and in public, according to him, the warrant is still held for Sade arrest. So, this is where we are. Still, Adu's time on the island was not in vain. In 2000, the band reunited to release their 5th studio album, Lovers Rock. An ode to the Jamaican musical genre which took over the UK through the 1970s, the album fused reggae, soul, R&B, and jazz and contained the hit singles By Your Side and King of Sorrow. One song in particular, Slave Song, was inspired by Bob Marley and Wailers, as Sade stated in an interview with Vibe magazine.
One day we started jamming on it in a really dubby way, and I started to feel the weight of the sea and what it must have been like on the journey over to America. Then I thought of Bob Marley's Redemption song and thought, well, what is my point here? I knew if I stayed true to that song, it would all work out.
Now, for their efforts, the band won the Grammy Award for Best Pop Vocal Album in 2002. By 2010, it was certified triple platinum by the Recording Industry Association of America, and in 2013, it was certified platinum by the British Phonographic Industry. Now, after an almost 10-year hiatus, again, the band Sade is known for taking these long hiatus. This should come as no surprise to anybody about this long hiatus, while Sade herself, Sade Adu, is known for, completely removing herself from, public, from the public if it's not anything music related. You understand? When you see her, of the music business. Other than that, you're not gonna see her, right? Sade, So after almost 10 years hiatus, Sade released their 6th album, Soldier of Love, in 2010. The first single and title track won a Grammy for Best R&B Performance by a duo or group with vocals. The group has not released a studio album since. However, in 2024, Sade released Young Lion, which appeared on the compilation project Transa, which was a project which was dedicated to the transgender community. And it is here that I should state that Sade Adu, that song specifically, Young Lion, was dedicated to her son Isaac, who is transgender. So, Still, despite their current hiatus, the band's influence can still be heard in a range of musicians worldwide. A list that is way too long for this episode. Way too long. Way too long. Most recently, fellow Nigerian musician Rema would sample Adu's vocals for his 2025 single, Baby, Is It a Crime? Likewise, Sade's fashion icon status as well as her mystique is still in the public domain. In fact, in 2020, Georgia Smith paid homage to Adu in her music video By Any Means, and in December 2023, Maya would do the same in a series of Instagram photos. Now, whether the band would release a next project, that's still up in the air, that's still up in the air. Whether Sade Adu will ever visit the island again, well, we have to wait and see. You understand? If the islands are West Warrant for one of music's most reclusive artists is ever lifted. You understand? If we're going by everything her former lawyer, Clive Mullins, said. Right? No, I said prior, Sade the band is going to be inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame come later this year, 2026. So, anything can happen. But, as I said at the beginning of the episode, something happened back in October, which I'm just like, all right, to my fellow Jamaicans who are fond of Sade, we might see, there's hope. So let me tell you what happened back in October, right? So, there is a situation with Movado, you understand, who on June 9, 2018, a warrant for his arrest was issued on charges of assault, occasionally actually bodily harm. You understand? And he has not been in the country, largely because of that situation. You understand? He's largely not been in the country. But on October 2025, you understand, this warrant was vacated. It was lifted where Movado, you understand, made his grand return to the island for the first time in more than a decade. Now, I'm just like, Sade legal case older than me. You understand? So like, Jamaican police, work with me here. You understand? Work with me. You understand? So again, to all the Jamaican Sade fans, there is hope. Okay, we can lead the campaign. We can make it happen. Still, regardless of the entire situation with Sade, I did make some references to it throughout this episode. But, as any Jamaican will tell you, Jamaican police officers who are assigned road duties, they do have a turbulent relationship with the public due to the many complaints of officers allegedly pressuring motorists for bribes. You understand? So that has always been a thing of the back and forth between Sade and the state and, what actually happened, in 97. You understand? And just like Sade, almost 30 years ago, musicians are included in these complaints about Jamaican police and, the continuous complaints about bribery. You understand? And one of these cases actually took place in last year, in July 2025, where the Grammy, I'm going to beat up my chest to say this, the Grammy-nominated musician Lila Ike, big up yourself, mums. She was charged alongside a co-accused with charges of indecent language, disorderly conduct, and resisting arrest in relation to a traffic stop along the Mandela Highway. Lila, was on her way to Sumfest when all of this took place. And during her Sumfest set, Lila gave the public a hint of what might have happened in her version of the event. You understand? Allegedly. You understand? This is, her of what she said happened. And, she stated this on a remix of her hit, Solitude.
That's just what I seem to find. Oh, gosh. Sometimes I'm not in the mood. If no police bribe me, it best you leave me alone. Hey, you see time, where we go? I told you not left enough.
No, when Lila showed up in court in October, she was ordered to return. But according to the Gleaner, when the date of the next hearing was announced, Lila told the judge,
"Me can't come. Me have sure.
And it is with this that, I say, you understand, Leela, if you're listening to this episode, you understand, I'm a huge fan, in your own words, the biggest fan, you see me I'm trying to say. So just for everybody's sake, please show up to court. Please show up to court. Like, unlike Sade, please show up to these court dates.
And with that, we call an end to this episode. To view sources and or recommendations to learn more, visit our website at tenementyardmedia.com. A transcript of the episode will be available 5 days after it has been posted to podcast outlets. Follow our social media pages at tenementyard_ on X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and now Blue Sky to view additional posts on this and other topics, as well as other content created by The Yard. A quick note before I go, we're on Patreon, patreon.com/tenementyardmedia. You can support the show with a monthly donation of your choice at tenementyardmedia.com. Until next time, this has been Lest We Forget, a historical podcast by Tenement Yard Media. Walk good!